Hey everyone, I have Printful back on the channel. We've had Printful on before. Now I get to speak with Liz today. I'm super excited. I'm always excited for these Coffee with Kittles. I feel like a broken record when I say that. But today we're talking about marketing, something that we don't normally talk about on the Kittl channel. And I think a lot of our users, certainly a lot of print-on-demand entrepreneurs that are getting started, they're probably struggling a little bit with marketing themselves, how to get their products shown, whether it's Etsy, Shopify, whatever it is. But before we dive into kind of the four categories of marketing I have, Liz, if you don't mind, just give a brief intro on yourself, who you are, what you do at Printful, and then we'll get rolling.
Awesome. I'm so happy to be on the channel for a Coffee with Kittl, which is to me like one of the most fun little formats and ways to talk to industry professionals and explore stuff. My name's Elizabeth or Liz, and I work at Printful in the marketing department. I've worked in marketing for quite a few years, but specifically lately I've been working on video. So you will catch me on the Printful YouTube channel where we do tutorials and explanations and trends and tips and everything you might need. But yeah, I'm super excited to be here and talk about marketing because especially for somebody like maybe a print-on-demand seller who is super focused on creating great designs and creating like the perfect product, I'm always worried that there's going to be a piece missing where no matter how good your product is, like if somebody's not going to see it, they're not going to be able to buy it. And you have to put stuff in front of people's faces for them to actually get on board with your product.
Yeah, for sure. So I am ready for this because I've got a full page of blank notes. Not a full page, I have a blank page of notes that I'm getting ready to write down all of the master notes that you're about to say. So what I want to dive into first is basically general how-tos on how to market your print-on-demand shop, essentially. And so I love the point you just made about someone basically maybe not having everything together completely in whatever they're doing. Maybe their product's amazing, but they're not exactly marketing it right. So the first thing I want to ask is maybe someone's relatively new to this game. They've got their print-on-demand shop up. Maybe they've been doing it for a while. Maybe they've been trying some like social posts or they're talking to their friends or whatever it is, but they really haven't dove into what marketing can bring. So I just want to ask broadly, and we can get more narrow as time goes on, but what would be the top three most important things in your mind, just the top three that come to mind in terms of marketing tactics? Like if you were going to give somebody like, look, these are the three things you need to go for top of mind for print on demand or something like that.
That is a very great question because to me, there's always two main pillars, but then I think there is a third that would also, especially for e-commerce, make a lot of sense.
Okay.
So for any person doing marketing in any environment, in any industry, the first thing to think about is what kind of value you provide or your product provides. And the second thing is who your customers are. If I were to pick a third, it would be figure out where your customers live, especially for e-commerce. Like where do they consume content? Where do they buy? Where do they want to see products that they would be interested in buying? So like it would make sense for somebody to, I don't know, maybe consume Instagram content, but not at all be interested in seeing products on Instagram. So that is something that you really have to figure out. But for the first two, if you don't have those, if you are not super clear on exactly what problem you're solving for people, or it doesn't have to be like a life-changing problem, but let's say somebody, wants a sweater for Christmas and they have a niche interest and it would be like exciting for them and they would like, let's say, I don't know, they're a gamer and then they would see a gaming inspired Christmas sweater. That would be a very like valuable thing for them rather than just a regular Christmas sweater that they would just kind of pass by. So it has to be a specific value that you're delivering to a specific set of customers, and figuring out what it is and who those customers are is going to basically be the building block for everything. You're going to be able to figure out what your pricing is, what your brand should be, which platforms you should be on, etc. That's the first like pillar stuff. That's the basics.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So I think that a lot of people probably don't start there. I don't know what your all's experience is. I love that. This is a principle that we try to teach. We basically call it reverse engineering, right? So we reverse
Mhm.
engineer, and we're able to reverse engineer what we know best, right? And so I think the typical model that's kind of expressed or shown off is like how easy it is to get started with print on demand or something like that, or any kind of drop shipping. Like, I think when people hear print on demand, I think they just hear like t-shirts or hoodies and stuff, but there's like, gosh, there's just so many different things. Like, you can drop ship jewelry and everything now. And I think it's just like, yes, this is so easy. Let me get it set up. I'm just going to like throw all of these products up, you know what I mean? And so like you said just a second ago, like, your what your brand is going to be, right? Like, and then something I don't even hear a lot about in terms of print on demand is like value proposition, or the value or the problem that you're solving. So that's really great, and I think people don't commonly utilize that as a marketing tactic or marketing task, or they don't put that in the same category. Usually they're thinking of like, oh, that's kind of like just branding, or that's like
Mhm.
visual identity, also very important, right? Okay, so you have, out of these three, we talked a bit about value and how that corresponds with audience, and then then you said like where they're at, right? And so that's kind of like a subcategory of just audience in general, right? So like, obviously you have
Mhm.
this audience in mind, but now you have to figure out where they're at, and you said something like, maybe people that are on Instagram are happy being on Instagram, seeing what they see, but they don't want to see uh, like just a product post. And this is perfect because it leads into my second question, um, which is, what are some of the most common mistakes that you see people make when they're getting started or trying to market their products? You've obviously just said one, which is like just posting like it's just maybe an Instagram page full of just product photos that no one has any idea. So anyway, yeah, you tell me what you think.
One of the biggest is obviously like not understanding what your audience is looking for. So like thinking that just a nice looking design, for example, which could really be like a beautiful piece of art, not realizing who are the people that you're talking to and what is the actual value that you're bringing. That is the first mistake. The next, like most common, this is something that I actually see a lot. Whenever somebody gets into something like print on demand, their immediate thought is that they should do like promotional posts, like paid advertising a lot of the time,
Oh,
and that
interesting.
should be like their biggest investment piece. It's a big pet peeve of mine, especially when there are like, I've seen like gurus on the internet talk about the fact that, hey, like I'm going to explain to you how to get the biggest bang for your buck in
Mm-hmm.
like paid advertising, how to use these kinds of ads and stuff. And there is definitely space for that. But if you're just starting out, if your Instagram has like 150 followers or something, the ad, no matter how well targeted, is not going to work as well. Somebody's going to, let's say, even if they like enjoy the stuff that you put in the ad and it's super well targeted and they're like, yes, this is exactly what I'm looking for, they're going to go to your account. They're going to see like 3 posts, 100 something followers that are mostly your friends. Like, they're not going to trust in the
Mm-hmm.
fact that your brand is legitimate, right? Even if it is. So I feel like starting with paid advertising is a money sink almost always.
Okay. Yeah.
So, like, exhaust the free options first. Go to social media and just like build an audience, do like well done traffic driving posts, maybe. Do a lot of SEO if you're selling on a marketplace, especially. That is a virtually like free way to make sure that your products are being seen. Collaborate with different like smaller brands that are kind of on your level or in the same niche. Just do like a promo for promo joint giveaway. It's
Mm-hmm.
so much lower cost, but a lot more like it's going to bring a new audience that is going to trust you because a brand that they already trust is working with you. Or
Mm.
like, I don't know, go to forums where your audience lives online, like Facebook groups, Reddit, anything, and interact with people and like respond to concerns that they have if it's genuinely something that aligns with your brand. Find ways to find people that are not necessarily immediately going to be just paying for their attention.
Right. Yeah, and I would say another another common mistake that I see in terms of trying to market is is similar, basically not doing anything, basically only doing one thing, right? So it's usually something like posting on your native Facebook page, or it's posting on your native Instagram page. So, and I guess what I mean by native is just like your personal, right? And so what happens there is that it doesn't feel like it's part of the rest of what you're doing, right? It doesn't look personal anymore. Like you had all these cool, posts of you traveling, and then all of a sudden there's like pictures of like, a mock-up of a shirt or whatever, and it just doesn't make sense, right? Or it's like just essentially relying on like your friends or your family or your grandma or whatever to go check out your Etsy and make a sale or two, thinking that that's going to bolster it, right? So I think that that's potentially false hope as well. So coming off of the common mistakes, right? So we've talked about some that are easily affordable in terms of like zero money almost. What would you say is the easiest method to get started with when marketing your products versus what would be the hardest method? And the reason that I pitch the question that way is because people, I think, are afraid to put in time and work, but a lot of times that will give you the most reward for your efforts. So yeah, if we can think about it like that, what would you say is the easiest one to get started with? And then what would be the hardest one? But what I really mean by that is like the most rewarding.
I feel like the easiest one is word of mouth in a way. If
Okay.
it's especially in the very, very beginning, that would be the easiest. So let's say you have a network of friends, acquaintances, and if you actually genuinely believe that your thing is good, it's going to be semi easy to, I don't know, get your mom to tell her friends that, hey, my child has created a thing.
Hmm.
Whether or not that's going to go super far depends. Usually not, because those people are not necessarily in your target demographic. But that is pretty easy, right? Just ask your friends, hey, check out this thing. If we're talking about the hardest but the most rewarding, especially in like a more growth stage, I feel like this applies the most. It would be like Facebook or Pinterest advertising, because those are kind of hard to figure out. There is a learning curve there, but the ROI is generally higher for those platforms than some other ones. I'm not saying that those are necessarily better. It fully depends on where your customers want to see stuff, right? But those are some of the ones where ROI tends to be better. And my personal favorite, which is like one of the best ROIs in the entire world of marketing, is email marketing. And this is something that we constantly like ascribe to these like, I don't know, almost catalog style brands from the days gone by, right? But this is genuinely something, especially if you want to build a loyal customer base that is going to keep coming back and trust your brand and feel like you're genuinely working behind it. The ROI or return on investment for those unfamiliar, for email marketing, I've seen numbers float around, but it's generally like it falls between $36 or $42 on each dollar that you spend. Like
Wow.
that's 3,600% to 4,200%. Like that's crazy ROI. And that's genuinely almost free, right? Setting that up isn't necessarily super expensive, but it can be a little bit hard and feel daunting. Like, where do I even start? But the reward for that and for, keeping at it and genuinely like keeping up those connections, finding good hooks, finding a good reason why people should subscribe in the first place, that's going to be so rewarding, like for a long, long time.
Yeah, that's really good. I love that was your answer for one of the best ones. That's actually like you jumped to the end of my list of questions about email marketing. You're the advanced standing student. You already knew that that email marketing was going to come, which is great because I recently just talked to my friend Scott, who runs brand creators on YouTube and is like one of the Etsy kind of selling masters, and his whole he just preaches email marketing all the time. So that's excellent because we just had a whole kind of like debrief on what email marketing is, how someone should get started. And so then hearing you reinforce that is like, I think, going to start waking people up like, oh, okay, I have to build an email list. I have to. And we can get there. We can get there in a few minutes. So, okay. So just let me reiterate here. So easiest one, word of mouth. That's kind of like your first line of defense is like, I did a thing. I'm going to tell people about the thing. Okay. That's like the first. Then maybe the hardest or the harder method, but most rewarding, is figuring out ad structure, which then means you have to create the ad. Is it going to be a video ad? Is it going to be a static ad? Then you have to figure out how Meta works if you're going to do Facebook, or you have to figure out how to run it in Pinterest, which perhaps might be a little bit easier. And then I know TikTok has their own platform. So you're right, it can get sticky, but it can be very rewarding just because all of these platforms have separate entities that you have to go and run the ad in. Now, I wonder if we can go back just briefly to continuing to build an audience to market your products, whether or not we're going to do that with some ads, whether or not we're going to do that by growing through word of mouth or any of the other tactics. When I was talking with Scott, the person I was just mentioning at Brand Creators, we were discussing the difference between like narrative or a story driven approach to your products, your brand, versus a strictly promotional tactic, which is just basically like, I have this thing, do you want it or not, right? And I've found a lot of success, maybe just not myself, but seeing other users, other creators in creating something, selling something that they have a knowledge or a passion about, which translates into all of the marketing tactics better and like making more money, right? And I think that's just because they know what they're selling. So I just want to know, like, has that been your experience? Like, have you seen that? Is there something behind this more knowledge or passion driven approach to building an audience? Yeah, I'm just wondering like what your experience has been there.
That is 100% the case, and it intuitively makes sense as well, right? If you care about something, if you're in a specific community or a fandom or something like that is genuinely something that is a part of your own identity, you are going to be a good model for the potential target customer. You're going to be able to relate to them. You're going to be able to inherently understand what drives them, what is the reason why they like the thing or the area or whatever it is. And on top of that, you're likely, especially if it's a more like, if there is a community around the topic that you know about and are interested in, you're almost definitely going to know where these people sit and talk to each other. Those spaces are super valuable for any amount of, not even just like, we think of marketing as almost like a little bit a dirty word where you're just like promoting and you're devious in that way. But it's a great space to be able to share something that you created and you're proud of, and you know that people who are interested in the same thing would maybe like it. That is a great opportunity where you know where these people are, you know how to talk to them, you know what they are looking for in a thing. That is going to be so much easier than trying to figure out people that you can't relate to from scratch. We see that happen all the time. Like, huge brands sell to virtually everybody. So they have to figure out each type of person, even if they're not those type of people. But if you're just, if that is your first business, your first product, it is going to be easier for sure to sell to people like yourself.
And why do you think so many people don't do that? I guess it's like, I guess it's multifaceted, but like, is it just because there's so many things that they can have or design or show with print on demand, and they just like, I have to try to do all the things to get all the money? Like, I don't know. I've just been trying to figure out why people don't like start with what they know. Maybe they don't think it's interesting. Like, do you have any thoughts behind that?
I have two theories.
Okay.
One is that maybe people look a little too much to online creators who make them think that they know everything. So let's say somebody, like, this is something that I see like become more and more common all over the internet, where somebody is going to say, hey, the best color of t-shirt that sells is this. The
Okay.
best design style that sells is this. The best thing. And so they look at these statistics, which may well be very, very accurate, and they kind of try to dissect what is going to be the best selling thing in the world ever and give that as advice to, okay, you go and you do that. And then for somebody who's just starting out, who's interested in the idea of print on demand or drop shipping and doesn't think about it as them starting their own business that is going to be representative of what they can make, they just kind of take that advice blindly sometimes, which is theory number one. Theory number two is a lot less like dark, and it's just maybe people feel like in the niche that they know about or are interested in, they can't come up with something that would be a product that they would be able to create or sell. I don't know if you are. I struggle to come up with an example specifically, just because I think every niche can kind of,
You can do something,
have
yeah,
something.
right? You can do something.
Yes, exactly. But so I don't know. Somebody might be into like a big nerd about hiking backpacks, and I mean nerd in the best way. They might be like, oh, people in this community would only be interested in these super, super high performance backpacks that are super functional, and they aren't necessarily an achievable thing with like print on demand or something like that usually. But what they might miss is that, okay, you're talking about this very specific product. Maybe these people would like I don't know, a travel mug with a nice design that is going to like really
Nice.
reach out to who they are, and it's not going to be maybe the hyper super functional thing they're looking for, but it's going to be in the niche. It's going to be something that you can speak to because you care about it too. I feel like it's always possible to look at your field of interest and find something. It's just that people sometimes feel like, oh no, I can't compete with these huge brands that are already selling to people like me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's 100%. A lot of what I see is I get lots of comments on any of our print on demand videos like this is just oversaturated, like there's no point in getting on to do anything in print on demand because like everyone's doing it, or there's no point in going, like I'll see comments that are like, this is my niche, but there's no point in like going after it because there's like 100 competing shops that are doing it like amazing. And it's like, to a point, fair. They are also obviously interested in that niche and selling and doing well. But I think that one, I've done research and found statistics to prove that print on demand is just not oversaturated in any sort of fashion, which I want your thoughts about. And two, I had not thought about what you just said about the like people saying certain things about a certain product or a category or even like a style, like the color. I had not thought about how people interpret the information and aren't able to distill the principle from that information into their own process. So that's where it has to, this is why I really, really like talking to my friend Ryan Hogue, because he'll basically say like, look, these are the niches, but you have to figure out like where this aligns with you. And he'll say like, these are trends. So these are trends that are going to happen and you can get in on them, but they're short lived, right? So there's a difference between trend and evergreen. And so it's important, I guess you got to pick your gurus wisely is my point here. But just to the point, before going to the next topic, just to the point about oversaturation, because I feel like that's another reason why people are just not apt to really kind of build a brand. If we just use that phrase, that's another, or that's in the theory that you have about just being overwhelmed or like there's competing shops or you're just not going to do it well. What are your thoughts on the whole oversaturized conversation? Like, is it or is it not? And how can we prove it?
I want to first acknowledge that it is definitely more saturated than it was 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Like, that is just fair. That is true. More people talk about it. More people do it. There's more of a variety of companies that you can work with. There's more. It's just a more developed industry, which is fair. In any single industry, if you get in super early, it's going to be easier. But I don't think it's necessarily fair to say it's oversaturated. Like, the idea comes from a point of view of, I can't enter this industry and do whatever, therefore it's not, it's there's too much competition, everyone's winning over me, because I haven't thought about the basics first. What I feel like should be an understanding for everybody is that for any business, succeeding means starting properly, right? It's not something that you start without a clear idea, without a clear understanding of what you're doing and why you're doing it. The customers who I've seen succeed genuinely in a year, suddenly, like, they grow super quickly, is that they know exactly what they're creating and why. They know how they are unique compared to somebody else. That could be anything from, like, the specific style to the branding that they create, to their story. Anything can make them unique, but they know how they stand out.
Right.
And they realize that, like, okay, I have competitor A, B, C, D. I need to figure out how I can compete. Giving up in the beginning just because you feel like there's too many competitors means you didn't think about how you can actually compete with them. What could be the unique value? What is the thing that they are missing that you could bring?
Right. Yeah, I think I think it's just not fair to say, well, so it's interesting your point about, I just have so many thoughts. It's interesting your point about this means I can't just get on here and do whatever I want. That's so funny. Like, I can't just get on here and, like, sell like 18 different stickers and shirts and ice buckets and whatever else. There's just so much stuff you can print on. It doesn't even make sense to me. But I think going back to, like you said, reverse engineering and having a goal in mind, this is all stuff that, like, this is all information and tactics and principles that apply to, like, so much more than just print on demand. Like, just having a successful business in general, or, like, I don't know, in the most practical sense, like, I don't know, buying a car. Like, what do you need the car for? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what is the purpose that the car is going to serve? Have you done the research on the brands of the cars that you want to do? That's good. That's really good. I want to go back to ads now. So shifting just a little bit. I know we got into the oversaturated question, which I just always have to bring up because I just have to. It's print on demand. Let's go back to ads. So you talked about Facebook ads being a good place to share your products, promote your products, as well as Pinterest. That's really exciting. I hadn't quite heard that one really from anyone yet, at least in terms of ads. I've been hearing a lot, like, you just got to post on Pinterest, like, and then you post the link and then people can click from the link and go to Pinterest. I want to ask, when might be a good time to start ads? Because you've already mentioned that getting everything set up and then just, like, running ads to an account or whatever that has, like, almost zero followership is kind of a money sink, and it also doesn't really look as professional as it can. I think some might argue that, like, if what they're selling is, like, good enough, then it really, like, doesn't matter. Like, the ads will just, like, convert for themselves. But I guess I want to know, like, in your experience, or from what you've seen, what's the best time that someone should start investigating and running ads?
I will get to that exact question in a second, but first, like, a response to the hypothetical person that is saying that ads can totally work on their own and bring in traffic, etc.
Okay.
I agree. However, I feel like there needs to be a differentiation between two things that you can get from social media, from advertising, etc. One is traffic and one is loyalty. Not one is better than the other. That's not the case. It's just that for different businesses, one might make more sense than for the other. I think a good example is the gaming themed Christmas sweater that I brought up is like one of the first things. So let's say you sell gaming themed Christmas sweaters. You then understand this is a fairly seasonal, maybe even a little bit like gimmicky product, which is not bad. So you realize that, okay, maybe the same customer is not going to buy 4 of those every year. In that case, you realize that based on the thing that you have created, you are going to need to rely more on traffic and on acquiring new customers rather than having the same loyal ones, because you're not going to get these constant repeat sales as somebody else might. That is fair. And then you can be like, okay, ads and advertising and this kind of focus matters a lot more to me. If your brand is very audience driven, so let's say you are not even necessarily an influencer, but some kind of creator who either makes music or maybe makes art that people like, etc. At that point, you got to realize that the main thing that is driving people to you is not like a gimmick or a seasonal thing. It's a lot more of like a loyalty thing. They like you, they like the brand, so they are likely to repurchase, and you will benefit much more from this loyalty building. Neither one of these sources is bad or good, and you shouldn't be just choosing between one or the other, but realizing that there is a difference is important. So yes, I agree, ads will bring traffic regardless if the stuff that you're advertising and your ad itself is good, but is that the right thing for your business? When it in general comes to advertising and when you should get into it, my first and most general advice is that you exhaust every other option first and then get to the paid stuff. It's not there is no blanket thing just because every business is going to be so different depending on how you sell and what you sell. There isn't a specific follower number that you have to reach. There isn't a specific I've saved this much in revenue so I can spend some of it on advertising, right? Two main things is that you already have some amount of customer base that you have almost experimented on, where you can tell, okay, they like this, they enjoy this type of stuff, this is going to be most likely exciting for my niche. You have to know that before you invest in sharing that type of thing in advertising. And you also have to have tried other stuff, figured out what kind of stuff works. So let's say you've tried writing blogs or articles or starting an email list, something like that. And you know what are the most exciting and attention-grabbing things, what kind of, wording, what kind of creatives, what kind of style works with everything else. So you've tried everything that is not going to cost you that much. You have built up a little bit of an audience. You understand your already existing audience and know what kind of people you're targeting, and you know what they like. At that point, you're in a good place where you can go, okay, this is an amount of money that I can safely invest in something that is going to work great or work not as great. You can't 100% guarantee that for yourself. And then you can go, okay, I'm going to test this. And then maybe I'm going to create an alternative and test this. And you can then advertise to an audience that you understand with a product that you know they're going to like.
What makes a good ad then? Especially in maybe just what you've seen, specifically thinking about print on demand. I see a lot of ads, both static and video, all the time, all day long. So moving out of what we can assume would be a fair time, let's say we're comfortable, like you said, investing this amount of money. Perhaps the initial ads are going to be kind of like testing. We're going to test this one. We're going to test this one. We know what we're doing. We know that through our organic options, they have worked pretty well, 1 or 2 of these maybe. And so you've got some data. You're going to test something. What makes a good ad to you?
Once again, the most applicable advice here is a good ad is an ad that your target customer is going to like. That is, just because there's so many different people around the world, I would hate an ad that maybe you would click on. genuine.
Sure.
Like I would immediately be like, absolutely not. The other more like blankety kind of advice that would work for most people is that it needs to be at the very least like visually pleasing and look professional. The more mock-up-y and cheaper your ad is going to look, the less trust someone is going to have to click on it and to see what your brand is about. Mostly because they just won't trust that this thing that you are selling, as somebody who, you know, hasn't come across their feed before, maybe, you know, they're not going to be super sure that they can click on this ad safely. Another thing to look out for in this is advertising that doesn't just focus on the product or design itself, but to maybe think of a more lifestyle-y angle to it. So when people, this is kind of like the marketing advice that just works and is true, is that when people buy something, they almost never buy it for what it is. They buy it for the idea of who they could become once they own the thing. So if you can think of, let's say you are selling these, I don't know, like maybe you're selling something more gimmicky and you're relying on ads to drive traffic. If it's something that is going to be a super funny design, you can show somebody in an environment where they are being like more funny. It could be honestly like even a more creative, funny TikTok ad where the person or the model wearing your shirt or sweater or whatever is not going to be just standing there looking pretty. They're going to be in a social environment with their friends where you know, they're going to be like, hey, look at this, it's funny. This is a very crude example, of course, but figuring out how to make things look trustworthy and how to make them play to the person's understanding of themselves, not just of your product, those could be things that could be applicable to everyone.
Right. This sounds like kind of like the IKEA model, right? Their whole idea is making life easier, right? So it's like you're not buying a couch, like you're buying like the ability to be comfortable or something like that, or like you're not buying a desk, you're buying like the thing that's going to make you more efficient and more money or whatever. I know their stuff's amazing.
Yeah, and also like this is the model that every super successful like brand has ever, like think of Apple originally.
Sure.
Their idea wasn't we're selling phones, we're selling the fact that you are a rebel and different. It wasn't ever like for these huge, super big successes in marketing. That's almost always the case. They're talking to you as a human and who you could become if you just buy this one thing. It sounds manipulative, but it's just something that works.
Yeah, I think one thing that Apple does really well is Simon Sinek's whole people buy why, not what, right? They buy why you do it, not what you do. And I feel like people may think that's like a little bit too of like a heady topic to think about, I guess, especially if we're thinking about like print on demand. But like, I don't know. I think if you have like a reason behind it, you know, a good why, if you will, and then you're able to pair that like with what you're saying is provide the idea or the ideal of what you could be if you also get on board with this thing that I'm providing, then I think you have a winner. So those are two extremely powerful things. I mean, a lot of this is starting to sound like just knowing people. That's like the best marketing tactic, is essentially just knowing people. Whereas I think I don't want to overgeneralize for everyone. I usually say like everyone or a lot of people. I just mean like that I see. So I don't know. I'm sure there's people doing it right, but it's like what I think would be the overgeneralization. It's like not starting there. Like, all right, we're going to make these products. We're going to do it as fast as possible. We're going to get them up. We're going to put $1,000 into these ads and we're going to see what our return is. And it's like, I don't know where the goal was. I don't know why you're doing it. This looks very stock, so I don't want it. You know what I mean? Yeah, just so many thoughts, but we must move on. So we have to get to email marketing. We're back to email marketing because I think this is something that maybe people think is dead, which I don't even understand, because when you like sign up to something, you have to like verify it via email, basically. So it's like everybody has to have an email. So I'm not entirely sure why so many or maybe not so many, but why I don't see a lot of creators and or print on demand shops or whatever like utilizing this. I don't know if it's just because they don't know how to build an email list, but I want to just give you the floor to talk about, maybe just piggybacking off of what you had already talked about, how email marketing is powerful and the tactics that we can get started with for getting an email list, right? And just starting to build that. Like, how do I get the emails? What email should I send? Like, things like that. So yeah, I'm going to give you the floor to talk through that.
All right. So in order of, priority, first,
Sure.
the why, right? Like, why does that work? Why don't you hear about it? All of these whys. The reason why it's super helpful to have that is because that is controlled exclusively by you. Almost all other kinds of ways to advertise rely on social media algorithms, rely on some like advertising algorithm that's going to target people. This is something that genuinely people who are interested for whatever reason subscribed, and you have direct access to them in their inboxes. What you do with that access and how successful you're going to be with that is a separate topic that we'll get into. But the great part about it, just in the most basic way, it's super controllable. It's something that you have full access to. Then where and how do you even start? The how and the technical stuff is going to be dependent on where your audience is and what vehicles are available to you. So let's say you have a storefront on a marketplace that doesn't offer a way for you to do a pop-up where you say, hey, subscribe to like my newsletter. If that is not available, you find other ways through, let's say, Instagram, where you go, hey, I'm doing a giveaway for you to be able to subscribe to it here. Like, click the link in my bio and add your email list, and then I'll, the winner is going to get like 3 free products, something like that.
Right. Yeah.
There are different purely technical setups that you can do depending on, your original setup. If you have your own unique store in, I don't know, let's say you use like Shopify, Squarespace, whatever.
Right.
There will be plugins that are going to enable you to do that super easily. The technical stuff is going to depend on how you run your business. Use your googly fingers, look it up. It's genuinely much easier than you might expect. Like, people think, oh no, it's so hard.
I think that's what people think. Yeah.
It genuinely isn't. Like, the only 2 like aspects that you have to think about is what is available to you, and like if there are any like privacy laws that you have to like make sure that you're abiding by. That is also not super hard. You don't have to like write legal disclaimers yourself. That is usually available through a variety of tools. That is available through plugins on platforms. That is available on like maybe some marketplaces where they're going to be like, hey, you can do this to get that, etc. The technical stuff, the most important thing is to remember is that it's not that hard. You can figure it out. The how to get people to sign up in the first place is what would be called like a hook, for example. You could do a variety of things. They should have a reason to give you their email. That can be, like I mentioned, like a giveaway or something like, or an exclusive discount code available to only newsletter subscribers. So subscribe up until this date and I'm going to be sending it out, something like that. A giveaway is en masse usually cheaper. A discount code might be more effective because they don't have to be like, oh, I'm never going to win this giveaway, but like that's a more certain thing.
Or
give
you
me
do
your
both.
email, I'll give you a
you
discount
give
code.
somebody, you give something away, but then you give everybody else that didn't win a promo code, right?
Yeah, exactly. So like you're getting sales regardless if they're going to be using that code. Think of it more as, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Another way would be if your brand is super centered on you as a personality. Let's say you're some kind of like creator, musician, artist, influencer, etc. You can go, okay, get like super exclusive behind the scenes, first looks. Let's say you're a YouTuber. This is something that people do a lot with like stuff like Patreon, for example, or platforms where like they want you to subscribe to the thing. So they promise you early access, they promise you extra bits, exclusive stuff, etc. It worked super well because people who care about them want to see that stuff. You could do exactly the same thing with a mailing list and emphasize the fact it's free. You just subscribe. Like, I'm not, there's no reason that you would be losing anything by doing that. And on top of that, I'm going to send you free stuff, free guides. You're going to get exclusive things, etc. So come up with a hook, come up with a reason why they should be in there. Once you have people in there, figuring out what to send feels like the hardest part.
Oh my gosh, yes. This is where people are going to fall apart right here. If you've made it this far in the video, God, please watch. Keep watching, because I feel like everybody just falls. They just get to the keyboard and they're just like, all right, I'm going to get a drink. I don't know.
Yeah, because it is hard. Writing is super hard, and people feel like, oh no, especially like that is often the reason why they don't start in the first place, because there's like, what am I going to be doing? Like sending them my personal essays like once a month? What the hell?
That's funny. Yeah.
Which is, it's fair. It's fair to worry about that. What's important to realize is that these people who subscribed very often will care about something about your brand. Either that would be new drops. That is something that you can be like, hey, you can get alerts about new drops immediately before, not necessarily before things sell out because you're selling print on demand, but it could be something like, oh,
you can make it look like
one.
it's going to sell out though. If you're
yes,
if you're on a Squarespace or something, you can make that thing look like there's only 5.
Absolutely. You can definitely, for literally anything, you can find ways, but at the very least, it could be new product drops that you could be talking about. It could be a more like a series of emails. Let's say if, once again, you're like a fairly new entrepreneur, you could do a series of emails basically describing the like story of how you actually started the brand, and do like one a week so that people get more motivated and more interested to do this. You could do, if you're a very like fashion-y and apparel focused brand with more, I don't know, you may be a minimalist, something like that, do like lookbooks of ways to style things, or ways to like combine clothing and outfits to like make, to minimize your wardrobe. You can find something that is interesting about you or your brand, or something that would be simply just beneficial to the people who you're sending this stuff to, and sharing it. No matter what you share, there needs to be a call to action, or a CTA. It doesn't necessarily have to be a button, but it needs to be something that you want those people to do. This is something that shockingly is one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make. They send content that just ends on nothing. Okay. Which is going to be like, a very fun email. It's going to be a lot of these nice pictures of your products. You did a new photo shoot, amazing, great, wonderful. And what? And what is the thing? The reason why email marketing works, and when it works, is when you actually give them something to do. You go, here's a new drop. You can go shop it right now over here. Here is a way to style it. You can shop every piece over here on this link. I've made a collection that is only visible to you as the subscriber. You can go check out and shop all of the pieces. Find something to tell people.
Man, that's really good. Wow. I feel like I've definitely done that, where I've just kind of provided my story, because I'm just like, well, I don't know. I said what I wanted to say, and that's what I want to say. I mean, I think sometimes it's like, it depends on what you're doing. Like this one I sent out, like I'm finishing up this book I wrote. It'll be published soon. There was nothing that's not published, so I can't like share the link to buy it yet, but I was just like, let me just do an update on like, whatever. Now I'm thinking like, what could I have asked them to do? I mean, I guess I could have put like, see, now you have me thinking. I'm like, maybe I could have put like chapter 1 on a web page, and I could have like drove them to my website again, and they could have read it, and then now they're on my page. And then, I mean, that's not a Print on Demand product, but still, like what you were talking about, like even if you're doing X, Y, and Z, or if you're talking about why you started the brand, there's always a reason. There's always a reason to do something. So that's really good.
With your book, could you have done a pre-order or something like that?
It's not ready yet, but it will. So that's the thing,
Okay.
is it's currently with layout, finishing layout.
Mhm.
So it's like it's coming. So I like showed like, a preview of what's been working on, but there was nowhere that I drove them to like, I guess, do anything else. I showed pictures, but it wasn't like, yeah.
You could do social media and say, hey, there's going to be more regular updates on my Instagram page. Go follow it if you
Mm,
haven't yet, you know.
true. Yes. Good point. Good point. Yeah. Could have drove them to social. See all these good ideas. I've got it all written down. Um, okay. So maybe the last question around email marketing. I think one hurdle would be, oh my lord, that's another thing I have to pay for and learn, and which one is best, which one does whatever. And Scott and I got into a little bit of this in our previous conversation, and we kind of ended up and like with most of them basically being able to do what you want them to do. There's none that are going to like trick you really. I mean, I personally use like Squarespace's built-in thing, which is like not quite as good as I would say like a proper CMS. It's fine. The reason I use my native Squarespace's email thing is because like I've already collected all of the emails through Squarespace, so it's like I think I get like 5 or 6 a month or something, which is not a lot. And so some models are kind of wackadoodle, and I don't really quite understand something maybe as like somewhere where maybe Constant Contact or something would be better, or like perhaps MailChimp. So I don't know if there's what kind of advice you would give around this to kind of settle the fear of it being too complicated or too expensive. Um, and I'm not necessarily asking you like which one is best. I think we all just have an opinion, but like maybe you have an idea of like what's a good place to get started with. Because if you're an Etsy seller and you don't have a Shopify or you don't have a Squarespace, so you don't have a native email thing, then you need something from the Etsy to keep people updated. So you need something, right? So yeah, what do you think?
To me, the same thing applies as to, I don't know, any, I don't know, good habit. Like, what is the best workout regimen? The one you're going to do. Same thing here.
Okay.
The best one is always going to be the one that's going to make it the easiest for you to use it. The one that's going to make the most cost sense for your brand, the one that is going to, be the most intuitive for you, etc. So let's say you're worried about how hard it is, or
Mm-hmm.
how many features there are to explore. If you know that that's going to keep you from actually getting a mailing solution, right? Go and find something easier. If you're worried about cost, and if you feel like you can't invest that much in a super, super epic bells and whistles
Yeah.
tool, don't do it. Just, the most important thing is to actually find a channel that is going to help you communicate with your customers directly and regularly.
Right.
If that is going to be something more simple with features that, you would love this, but it doesn't quite have that. If that is what makes sense for you and that is the easiest for you right now, do that. Like it genuinely, you can go down an endless comparison hole watching
Mm.
reviews
Oh, I
on
know.
YouTube and reading and stuff like that and
Oh
never
yeah.
actually getting to the thing.
Yep.
Don't do that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a trap. It's a trap that many of us played when we started trying to figure out YouTube. Right. You can do the same thing. Right. You can endlessly watch camera reviews for which camera or which lights or whichever one. When honestly, the best one is your phone. Like that's the best one you can start with. Right. Almost everybody now has a phone. So that's the idea. Perhaps the best one is the one you can get started with. Right. The quickest. And
Mm-hmm.
if you're okay with pride not being a super like you're not so prideful that you don't have to have the little made by whatever, you can get started with a tool that says like MailChimp, powered by MailChimp. I think that's what it's called. Like I think
Mm-hmm.
like if I were to send another one after my allotment, I think if I want to send another email with Squarespace, it says powered by Squarespace on it, right? And it's like for the first little bit, that's fine. You know what I mean? It's like that's okay. Like I don't know how many people really care about that until the point
Exactly.
where,
Like,
yeah,
who is going to be the person that is going to sign up to your mailing list,
Right.
receive an email from you, see, I don't know, powered by Squarespace, and be like, absolutely
Oh,
not. I am
forget it.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, that isn't the deal breaker. I promise you.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely concur. I mean, it's the same thing how people use like Linktree in Instagram, or there's another one for TikTok or Pinterest or whatever. The same concept. It's like if they want the thing bad enough or they want to know from you, then I don't think that's really going to, I don't really think that's going to hurt them. And then obviously once you grow that list to a reasonable amount or whatever you think is reasonable, and you need to do the extra thing, then you'll hit that upgrade to get the ability to perhaps do, like a drip campaign or something like a segment or a sequence where they get one email, and then if they buy something, they get another email. And then that little powered by whatever goes away anyway, because you've upgraded. So it's like kind of things have to fall in the right time, I guess, is like kind of the way to put it. Right. Yeah. I think that's really good. I think that's probably, I think what most people are looking for is like, just tell me which one to use. Like, is it MailChimp? Just tell me to use MailChimp. And it's like, maybe. I don't think that that's the most beneficial, because it's like, you could like hate MailChimp. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's like, don't ask me to tell you which one, because you could hate Squarespace. I have no idea. I love Squarespace. Oh my gosh. I think it's fantastic. But like, some people hate it. They're like, oh, it's awful. It's limiting. You can't do X, Y, and Z. It's all manner of perspective. So I think the best advice is the one that you can get started with, right? The one that you're going to be able to use, the one that makes most financial sense. And so it just takes a little bit of digging. But then we come back to your point where you say, don't sit and watch hour-long videos of the top 10 email things back to back to back, and which features, because you're not even going to use all those features. That's the thing, is you're not even going to use that, especially in the beginning. So hopefully that's beneficial for people that are watching. What I would like to do now is give you the floor to talk about anything that's coming up with, let's say, perhaps YouTube. You said you were going to be on the YouTube a lot more, over on the Printful channel, which all of that's linked down in the description for everyone. But if you can mention anything else that may be coming for Printful, or anything exciting or news, you have the floor to say what you will.
Ooh, okay. So first I'll say something that I definitely know I'm allowed to say.
Okay.
And then,
Yes, let's get in trouble. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right. So the first thing is, of course, the place where you are going to be able to find me, and where you're going to be able to get more advice on all of the stuff with a years long catalog of videos and tips and tricks and tutorials and everything, that's going to be Printful's YouTube channel. Like, I'm on there a lot, So if for some reason you're not sick of my voice yet, you can go and you can click and you can look at that. In terms of super new stuff coming from Printful,
print on demand sailboats. Got it. No, I'm just kidding.
There is, God, I'm trying to think of a way to say stuff that is for sure not going to get me in trouble. There are several usability and feature-based things coming that I think will be super exciting. And there is also like product technique related things that are also very, very exciting. Both technique. Coming.
Got it.
Definitely by the end of the year.
Okay.
I think that should be safe for me.
Good caveat to say by the end of the year. Nice.
Yeah, it isn't like tomorrow. This isn't like a teaser drop, But, just covering my bases here.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, I have a page and a half of notes that is going to be translated into timestamps, as well as probably a little featurette video that I'm going to clip. So this has been super helpful, not only for me, but I'm sure for people watching. Liz, thank you so much for taking the time. Again, Printful channel is linked down in the description. Y'all know about Printful. We've been doing tutorials, showing Printful things. This hat is actually a Printful hat. It's just, they've got really, really cool things going on over there. So please check out that channel. show Liz some support, obviously get educated. Now, if you've watched this long and you're not subscribed to the Kittl channel, please hit that subscribe button. It'll take you 1 second. I don't know what you're doing, especially if you've watched, what is this, 49 minutes or whatever it is. Do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. And now, before you leave, I need you to drop a comment if there was anything we discussed that didn't quite make sense. So if there's anything that confused you, if there's anything that you want to learn more about, I respond to every single comment. Every single one, I read it. A lot of times I share them with our team. I share them with our collaborators. If it's something Printful related, I could share it with Liz and the team. We read those comments. And so that's your first line of defense to get us to do something. So if there was something that confused you or you want to dive deep in, comment that down below. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.